just wanted to talk to you, and I thought it was really cool, and I've been reading a lot about it. Is kind of the conceptual Jiu Jitsu stuff, and after I talked to you, like that day that we trained.
Jeremy's it's a long time. About what?
Yeah, it's been
right before you got your blue belt. So over a year, maybe.
About a year, yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, it is that long, isn't it? It goes quick. But I don't know. It was really interesting just the way you kind of viewed things and looked at it. So it helped me like just to look at it instead of memorizing. Put your pinky here and your left foot there, and like 1,000 moves and this checklist of things is just. I kind of viewed it as like focusing on what needs to be done and not necessarily, what specifically you have to do.
No, it makes sense. I mean, when I first started and I'd go through Jiu Jitsu and, I got the nickname Encyclopedia Jiu Jitsu. I got it from in Portuguese, Livraria, which is what Marcos, my professor, gave me, which is the same thing as the other professor I was training with at the time gave me, and I got to thinking about it, and it was like, is that good? Is it bad?
Yeah.
But I mean, because I had studied so much jiu-jitsu that there wasn't anything hardly that was new to me, but those moves were pretty much useless when it came down to using it and applying it. If you're sitting there thinking about a position and then going through your head, 100 different moves. I mean, you're wasting time and it doesn't work. So that's when I started thinking about concepts and, just not trying to apply a move, but using the concepts of a move. So.
Yeah, so I got on, when we were talking about doing this, I got on and kind of Googled it, and there's a ton of articles and YouTube videos, podcasts, all kinds of things where people are just talking about conceptual jiu-jitsu and its benefits in doing it. But I haven't seen where anybody has been like, okay, here's the concepts, though.
Some people will do that. I'm trying to think of the last time that I've looked. I mean, back a couple years ago, I think it was Nick. I can't pronounce his last name, Gregoris or something like that. I believe it's an Australian guy. But anyways, he did one of those concept type things. But yes, no, you're right. It's they'll say, hey, we need to use these concepts of jiu-jitsu, and it makes jiu-jitsu easier. But they don't really give you easy examples that would allow you to apply that concept, right?
Yeah.
So no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, because there's no easy source to go to that I even know of.
Mm-hmm.
I just came up with stuff on my own or stuff that I've heard from, all the higher level guys in jiu-jitsu that I trained with.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it's I got on Google and was Googling, BJJ concept list and things like that. But one of them that I have used with my daughter is so she likes she likes to be on the bottom, and she loves that like the back sweep. She just grabs people's ankles and tries to push them backwards. And I noticed she struggles if she can't reach somebody's ankles, she can't reach one.
So they stood up in her guard.
Yeah, well, or just if they're standing and she's down or whatever, But so she would sit and she would fight and get herself out of position trying to grab this ankle, and I, that's when I kind of, thought about when you and I had trained and was like, okay, so what's the concept here, right?
Right.
You just basically don't think of it as trying to grab her ankles, as you need to control both her ankles and her hip. That's it. So you don't necessarily, and I just taught her, you don't need to use your other hand, use your foot, and then push her hip, or use this foot or that foot.
Right.
You can use your forehead, and it's, once that clicked for her, she was like, it made so much more sense than having to fish for this ankle and try to get it and get yourself out of position. So I think it's definitely useful. So something I wanted to talk to you about, if you're okay with it, is you mentioned, you sent me a message on Facebook one day. We were just talking back and forth, and you mentioned that you HFA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I didn't know that. That was the first time we had ever talked about that or anything.
I got a bunch of labels.
Yeah.
ADD,
So
HFA, ODD.
I got the ADHD one. I'm sure. My daughter got it genetically too. So what does HFA stand for?
High functioning autism. Basically being on spectrum, Asperger's syndrome.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it. I'd known all my life that I had trouble sitting still, studying in school. It was horrible in a school environment. I always thought I was dumb. Yeah. I probably graduated 300 out of 370 or something. I didn't try, right? I didn't care. It's not like that was a real marker of my intelligence. I just hated school. It just wasn't for me. I mean, sitting still and listening and doing something that was boring to me was not fun. So, but when I had my first son, Jace, which is now 16, we noticed something was very different with him before he was even 2. And they diagnosed him with high-functioning autism. Basically, all the labels I gave you are genetically passed down, like you said. And so that's when we found out, and I didn't realize that I had the same markers on the spectrum for Asperger's, which is high-functioning autism.
So you didn't find out till...
I was an adult.
So your kid was 16 and you found out?
No, he's 16 now.
Oh, okay.
We found out that he had the same traits on these markers on the spectrum, as they call it.
Yep.
When he was less than 2 years old. I mean, he wouldn't make a lot of eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't like to be held, which I don't like to be touched much.
So you took up Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah, no, see, that's the weird thing, right? So everybody sees my black belt and they see the puzzle pieces.
So I saw your puzzle pieces, and I was like, okay, and I just kind of assumed that, like, okay, maybe you had a child or something that was...
Yeah, so it's autism awareness, right? I think it was Kataroo, or however you pronounce the name of the belt.
Kataroo.com, I was going to
mention. And I saw the belt and I was like, oh man, that, it hits home. I feel that, And so, and it also talks to my struggles, and I don't like to, it's hard talking to people, right? A lot for me. So opening up conversations, and it's kind of like a way to, introduce a conversation into people. So yeah, it was hard for me to start jiu-jitsu. I started with almost 50 private lessons. I studied jiu-jitsu for almost 1.5 to 2 years without ever going onto a mat with somebody.
Wow.
All visual,
so
studied bracing combatives, and I was like, it doesn't make any sense to...
So you didn't really roll and practice with other people?
No. I had mats. I popped mats. Like, I just couldn't pull the trigger and get on the mats and do anything, right?
How old were you when you started that?
30, I mean, it was over 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm 44 now, so I was early 30s when I started studying. Before 2010 time frame, and then around 2011, my wife had bought me. My son was doing karate, and he said he was under the Machados with the jiu-jitsu program, and so I was like, okay, I know that name. Let's study it. Let's start jiu-jitsu. But my wife bought me to pull that trigger, which I would never do. I would have procrastinated forever, right? She bought me a pack of private lessons. It was like 5 or 6 lessons, and so I started with almost close to 50 private lessons before I got on, and really started joining a regular class. So once it took me 1.5 to 2 months maybe before my body and the rolling caught up to where my brain was, right? If you ever hear the stories about Aleo learning through visual, I did the same thing. I mean, Aleo was weak and frail, and
so you had more of a mental, you're like, I got the game, I just got to figure out how to do it.
And it took about, like I said, a month, 2 months, about 3 months, I was already got my blue belt. And
so
because I had it in my head. I mean, I studied 2 years. I just never rolled, right?
Yeah.
And so once my body and that resisting partner started working and matching the information and the techniques that I had in my brain, man, it was game on. It was good.
Very cool.
But it was hard. Sweating. I still get claustrophobic occasionally. I still occasionally will tap, even as a black belt. I'll get smothered. I'll be playing with a 300, 400 pound dude, and I get on bottom, and it occasionally happens, and I have to tap because
you get,
I get claustrophobic.
Yeah,
it gets full of anxiety. I know how to escape. It's just my body locks up in fear from that anxiety, and like I said, it happens to me once or twice a year. But it helped me along with my career in IT and public and speaking at lectures and conferences and meeting with C-level executives. Having to speak with those guys and communicate had pushed me through a lot of those spectrum problems, like large groups, public speaking, being touched, making eye contact. Like, I still don't actually look at your eyes, even though it looks like I am.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on the center.
Right there,
It's just little tricks.
Yeah.
Through years of professional work.
Yeah. So I counsel. I've counseled a lot of adults, never kids, but a lot of adults with Asperger's.
Yeah.
It's a lot of those tricks like that. Like, this is how you can
little misdirections,
copy in things and
little noises, little touch or distractions to keep their brain focused on you. Yeah.
So how much of that? So how does your brain being wired that way? help you to conceptualize jiu-jitsu? Like, how do you see it as opposed to like how I would see it?
So I mean, I can't speak as to how you, but I mean, I've trained hundreds of people, and what they relay back to me is the way I break it down and help them visually understand, because there's 3 levels of learning: auditory, visual, and kinesthetic, right?
Yeah.
So for me, auditory is horrible. Like if I was just listening to this alone without seeing something on video, I wouldn't pick it up. I wouldn't process it. So visual is huge for me. And then kinesthetic, being actually able to feel those little details in there, help me draw a picture and apply that with an analogy, right? And so that's where I'll come into a concept of jiu-jitsu. It's like a table. Right?
Yeah. The table one was a really good one. The 4 legs. And
It's a good one, because it's like, well, if I put you in closed guard and I told you to show me a sweep or reversal, what are you going to do, right? You're going to say, I know scissor sweep, I know hip bump sweep, I know pendulum sweep or flower sweep or whatever it's named, right? There's these techniques as you learned them, and that's what you'll do when you're rolling too. Most people do that, but I don't do that. I consider a table with 4 legs, and their arms and legs are the posts, and I say if I wanted to push this little round table over and it had 4 legs, if I cut one off, pushed it in a certain direction, it would fall. But if I cut 2 of them off, it doesn't take much leverage to push it over.
Right.
And that's the same thing. I block an arm, block their leg, and go.
So when you roll, like, so if you watch a video of yourself, do you catch yourself pulling off a form flower sweep, or do you catch yourself just like, I did this thing that made sense at the time, and when I watched it, it sure does look like what you came up with and called a flower sweep?
Yeah, no, I mean that's the perfect example of it, right? So you would think to go for a flower sweep, and don't get me wrong, I did it for years. I learned it, and I used it, but then I got thinking, okay, but their hands are already on me, right? Because they don't want their hands on the ground. So if I'm in a closed guard position and they're inside my guard, they're trying to keep their hands off the ground on my body, say my hip and my chest, right? To posture and create posture. Well, I just attach my hands to their hands and move and sweep them into the direction. I don't have to even go into a flower sweep, or scissor sweep. I mean, I know if I block their posts, their hands, and keep them tied to my body, they can't use them to push out. So I just move them in the direction. I don't even
grab the table leg.
I just go, boom.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like, it's not necessarily, it's what needs to be done.
Yeah, I don't think of a move. I think of trap the post, go.
Take the 2 table legs out.
Exactly.
Not necessarily grab the pins, hold
exactly.
the wrist. Yeah.
I don't even think about that stuff.
It's very cool. So something with like high functioning autism is like so part of the brain that it affects is your cerebellum, which is when it comes to sport, that's kind of your automatic in the zone. When you like, wow, I went out and played half the game and don't remember it, and I'm just in that. Do you find yourself when you're rolling like more conscious of thinking about what you're doing and more focused on it, or do you find that you can kind of get halfway through a match and be like, oh man, like I really killed it that time, I don't even remember what I was doing, I just did it?
No, I can play back the role. See, this is a gift that I have.
So you can,
right? People call it a disability. To me, it's a gift. I can visually play back almost the entire process, the entire rolling process, and do it, but I can't focus during the roll. Like I say, every time I show up to the thing, I'm going to work on X, Y, and Z. When I get there, I slap hands, lay back, and have fun and play, right? And I'm enjoying the jiu-jitsu because it's a mental game for me. It's a puzzle. Yeah. So I can play it back and say, oh, I could have done this here or that or there.
You can play back a pretty detailed.
Oh, I can see it like it's a movie in my head. Yes.
See, and I don't think, like, I know I don't, and I don't think that's the case with most people. When you kind of go into that part of your brain that's the muscle memory, we drill things 1,000 times, so you don't have to think about it. That kind of thing is you did it and you remember you did it, but you're like there's no picture of it.
Yeah, I'll stay up all night playing it back in my head, and and I'll be like, oh man, there it was. Yeah, there it was. It's like a chess player, It's like at that one move. It's like that to me. I'll be at night. I should have used this.
Do you find you get hyper focused on certain things with jiu-jitsu, or
I don't. My son, whenever he started, and I tried to teach him.
So your son's...
He's 16 now. My little one's 13. I guess they're not really little anymore. But when they were doing jiu-jitsu, my oldest, which has high functioning autism as well, he was in karate and we put him in jiu-jitsu, and that's what started a lot of this. But the point is, when he got X choke, and I'm like, no, man, calm down. You know, you wouldn't know he was like that unless he got into these repetitive modes, right? Yeah. And but I've never been just like that. I've never had that problem. He's a little farther than I am, but you can't tell now. He's an ROTC for the Air Force, and you know, he's trying to make, and he's gen ed now, not even special ed anymore. So they had that label on him forever for behavioral, so he stayed in school systems.
Yeah, man,
it's crazy.
I talk to a lot of adolescent kids, you know, mostly boys because I'm one of the few male counselors around, so I get a lot of the adolescent boys. But I spend a majority of my time talking about, all right, the labels you've been given your whole life, you don't have to live up to.
Exactly.
Like they told you you were this, they told you you were that. Like it doesn't mean you have to be. You know, it's like I would have definitely been a medicated ADHD kid in 2020 for sure.
Oh, I take my Ritalin now.
So I talked, my daughter was, you know, they mentioned it at school and we were kind of tossing it around. I called my mom and talked to her and she was like, oh yeah, we knew you had it. And like, I was like, nobody ever told me, you know, and she was like, yeah, exactly. Like, you know, you had to kind of learn to get through it. And I mean, I had some struggles in high school, but
mine was, I was never officially diagnosed as a child or
I never was officially either. But.
So my mom took me to the doctor and like, man, they all say my son won't sit still. He won't focus. He won't do this. He didn't learn how to read the same as the others.
Yeah.
Oh, he drinks too much. It's the 80s, right? I'm older. He drinks too much Coke and has too many sweets. Yeah. Take him off of that. You know?
Yeah, get rid of sugar.
Now it's
be
like,
fine.
Oh, you have ADD. You have ADD. You have ADD. Get out of my class. You guys can't function in a normal society. Yeah. And then that's not the way it should be.
No. It's, you know, I've really changed since I, you know, went to school at the beginning of this and did my internship to what I practice now. Is I'm so much more. Coping, like okay, you know, and I use the analogy that like you were dealt you're dealt a hand of cards at a poker table. Like everyone has a different hand of cards. It doesn't mean some are better, some are worse, and you can win with any hand.
Exactly.
You might have to play it differently than everyone else, but it doesn't mean like okay, well this is the hand that everyone should try to get. Like you can't have that, you know. So you just have to learn. You know, I just believe people were designed and built differently, and not everybody should be in the same box. Like,
exactly.
You said it perfectly a minute ago when you said you can view it as a gift, or you can view it as this like this handicap.
Exactly.
You know?
I thought all my life I'm dumb.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case. I mean, I excel at seeing patterns and flaws where other people don't see them.
Yeah.
It's like it just it just sticks out to me. I instantly see it. People don't.
It's like when we were talking, you know, the one day we were messaging back and forth, I was like, you know, just the way you talked about let's take just jiu-jitsu, you know, and the conceptual stuff. Like, I think that's really beneficial. I think a lot of people would benefit from viewing it that way. You know, not to say that, you know, drilling techniques and memorizing and doing that. Obviously, it's worked really well for a lot of people, you know, but not everybody's brain wires that way. I think that would be a really cool, thing to put out there.
It has to... You still have to learn the moves. You still should learn what it's called. You should still... I don't know how it is at 360. I think where you train,
that's
right?
What, yeah.
I'm sure he's a Machado black belt himself, right? I'm pretty sure.
Got it, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we all learned moves. We all had testing,
sure.
right? I don't know about you when you get your next rank or whatever, but we had formal testing, like show me this move, show me that move. So you still had to learn, and fundamentally it's important to understand step by step by step by step and call that a move or you know, a technique, and that should never go away. But what I am saying is when you roll and you're actually grappling, you shouldn't be sitting there thinking I know X, Y, and Z move. You should be just using a concept of blocking a post and moving them into that direction.
Well, it's understanding so much why you do it.
Useful.
I think that's what like the way you explained it, being beneficial to me is like, oh, that's why we do this. Like, and it also, I think viewing it that way is like, okay, if I'm doing this for this reason and going here, like, it's easier to conceptualize your next natural, like then next is going to be this. It's not just like, okay, now, all right, now I'll do this.
Exactly.
You know, it helps you sort of string those things together.
Right.
In sitting down, you know, you had sent me that message, you know, on Facebook, and sitting down to talk about this, I was like, we'll just talk about the conceptual stuff, 10 or 15 minutes, and like, just because I think that's a neat way to look at it. and then so I started kind of reading some things and was like, all right. I was really surprised at like how many even professional athletes that have come out formally and said that they have been diagnosed with, you know, being on the spectrum at some point. You know, that was something I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just another day at the office, right? I mean, yeah, I have handicaps, and as you know, they want to call them disorders or whatever they want to call them. But to me, I choose to view them as gifts, right? I can write code in IT. I design stuff in my head. I don't have to physically write it. I can just see the flow in my head or design an interface to a system like what I do professionally.
Yeah.
And then I do it all designed in my head, and then I put it to actual, you know, code into the editor, and then I start working with it. But I write it in my head without any paper or anything.
Well, I can definitely see where being wired that way would be a benefit to, you know, in a lot of areas. So let's talk about the handicaps you mentioned for a second. So some of the drawbacks. What have you gotten out of jiu-jitsu that's helped you with some of the handicaps? Has it helped you overcome some things? Has it helped you deal with some things?
Oh yeah, exactly. I think so let's kind of step back from that. But Master Machado one time, a long time ago, probably 8 or 9 years ago, he said, "What is jiu-jitsu?" Right? When he comes to do a seminar, what is jiu-jitsu to you? And everybody had their answer, you know, and I'm dying. I'm like, I'm the 20th guy on this side, 10th guy on this guy. Which way is he going? I'm nervous. You know, it still gets me. That's one of those handicaps. I still get super anxious to talk and you know, what move do you want to see today? But the point was, what is jiu-jitsu to you? And a lot of people are like, oh, it's my release, right? I work all day, I go and I get on the mat, and it's my release. I don't have that frustration. I feel happier when I leave. Another guy is like, oh, it's my fitness, it's my exercise to keep me healthy, you know. And I mean, and that's the general consensus when people are asked that. To me, I said it's a gateway, you know. And he's, well, elaborate, right? Why is it a gateway? Well, it's anything I need. It's my fitness when I need it, it's my release when I need it, but it's also a way to deal with life. Right? I mean, I deal with these struggles in jiu-jitsu and not giving up, right? It's one. I can easily tap and just quit, but you know, that's not the way I should do it, and that's not the way you should do it in life. Right. So it's anything that I see fit. But for me, I love being in very bad positions. I played defensively on the bottom because I have knee injuries from playing soccer all my life, and I could get in the worst position possible and then escape. And that's when I get that little dopamine release, that little, I did something successful, you know. And for me, it was about escaping the worst positions possible, and it still is like that. It's like taking the little tools, you know. They got the two little hooks together, and you're sitting there figuring out that little brain puzzle, and you split them apart. That's what I get every time I put myself in a bad position and escape
and get out of it.
And that's what hooks me.
Yeah,
you know, it's a never-ending brain puzzle.
Yeah, I would imagine. You know, so a lot of people that, you know, may struggle with certain things, like just the structure and the consistency of a class. Like, you know, I think most gyms are the same way. It's, you know, you go in and it's like, warm up, then we're going to learn this technique, then we're going to practice it, then we're going to do this, then we're probably going to go live. Like, and it's very structured and regimented, where I would see where that in a martial arts gym would be appealing above maybe like a team sport where it's not so predictable.
Yeah, it's horrible for me.
Yeah,
I'm the guy wanting to raise my hand every second. What about this? What if I do this? What if I do that? I got 1,000 questions. And I love that whenever I'm teaching. You know, I mean, I try to make them hold their questions until after I've showed the technique for the majority of people. But I love that. What if I do this? What if I do? That's the way I am. What if?
Yeah.
And that means they're using their brain. They're thinking things through and getting ahead, right? And to me, that's important. I love that aspect of it. So, but yes, that structure is hard to sit there and wait my turn.
Yeah.
You know,
I've talked to a few people, you know, about jiu-jitsu on here, and one thing I think is very cool about it is the mixture of how much of a team sport it is and the social aspect. It'd be difficult to get to a really high level without, you know, teammates around you and working together, and it is, and it's a community of people that help each other out, but it's also very individual at the same time, in that, you know, when you roll or when you go compete or something, it's just you. There's nobody to tag in, there's nobody to pass the ball to, It's just you, and it's pretty unique in that it's a team versus individual sport.
No, and that's where I struggle.
Which part do you struggle with?
In the individuality of it.
Really?
I grew up playing team sports soccer 35
Mm-hmm.
years of my life. I've coached, played at the highest levels
Right.
and that I could, due to injuries and things like that. But I could easily get the other guys, lead the team and get the other guys up. I'm a natural leader in that aspect. But when it comes to singular, like competing, I choke.
Really?
I mean, I've choked multiple times, blue, brown. Yeah, I mean, it's like I overthink something, right? When I don't do that when I'm just on the mats, I don't generally do that. But when it came to competing, I choked bad. I mean, I had crazy circumstances. I had a guy bite my hand in the middle of...
Really?
Yeah, it blew. I was competing, and the guy, I was going to get a collar choke, and the guy bites me. He had a mouth guard on, but your brain reacts, and I let go, even though it didn't hurt. It was just my brain registering, this guy just bit me.
Wow.
And I let go. It's those things you don't think about in self-defense and everything. You do react. Your brain does it faster than you can think that you're going to do it. But, the competing part of it, I choked big time.
Really?
For sure. I was better than everyone I ever competed against. But I choked.
You get, anxious? What is it about the...
Yeah.
When you say choke, what does that mean?
I'm super anxious, right? Probably right now, just sitting here, you're probably, 70, 80 heart rate probably, maybe.
Yeah, mine's usually around 60.
Okay, I'm probably sitting 130, 140.
What?
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Just sitting?
Oh yeah, I can be training. Even when I was playing soccer, I could run. I could put when I have the heart rate. I'm running 205 for 5 minutes straight. People are like, dude, your brain's gonna blow.
Yeah.
I mean, your heart's gonna explode.
That's
and I'm like,
crazy.
For me, that's me. I'm wired that way. I'm just.
So you sit that high, just normal when you're at home, relax, just chill, watching TV.
Yeah, it's funny. I trained with Jeremy, Metcalf. We met one time to train, and he has this system. I forget what it's called, but I'm wearing a heart rate monitor, right?
Yeah.
So I'm running 99, 100. It's red the whole time I'm training, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's gonna die!" And I'm like, "It's all right, guys. I've always been this way, so I'm just wired differently, man. Like from the whole thing is wired differently."
Huh. So when you say choke in competition, do you just... Is that some people would say that and it's like a mental block, I forgot what to do, or
exactly.
Or I didn't.
That's a perfect example of it, right? So I'm sitting there on bottom half guard and sitting there for 3 minutes, and I can easily tell you probably 15, 20 different variations of a way to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I just sat there.
And you just didn't.
Lost 3-0. The guy's sitting there trying to get a Kimura, and I'm just placing my hand on the ground to create friction. I'm just sat there. I could have easily pushed his knee, pulled his arm back, turned him over. But I just sat there.
It just froze, huh?
Just sat there.
Were there times in competition when you didn't? Or was that pretty much par for the course when you got
No, that's par for the course. I mean,
I
must always... I lost the first one at blue, arm bar. I went to do my favorite setup, which was, I came from the bottom. He's standing to go to an ashi and take him down for the... for the ankle lock was one of my favorite. But as soon as my heel touched his center line, the ref started talking to me about reaping. Right? And I don't compete, so this was new to me. And I'm used to playing team sports, soccer. You stop when the ref talks to you. I stopped, look at the ref. This guy moves my legs, mounts me, and I start rolling around like an alligator. It was just adrenaline, and then I reach in and tap my own arm. That was so stupid. I could have easily just pulled my arm out, but my brain just went...
Yeah.
And I froze, and I did something stupid. And I laugh about it now, but then the second match, I lost 3-0. The guy passed my guard. I held guard for 4.5 minutes. Said I need to open, get a sweep. He passed. And that was the one that bit me out.
So what about when you're just friendly rolling with
no problems.
You and Jeremy, and you're rolling around?
No problems.
But if you put a referee in that, it starts to get... It starts to be different for you.
When I put the load to win, right? I can honestly tell you, I don't say I'm a slap hand. I'm going to win. I've never done it. Never. I'm just going to have fun. That's what I say every time I do it. Over 10 years, I never say I'm going to beat you. Never think win. It seems crazy, but I just
it absolutely doesn't. My favorite thing to do, with therapy and psychology and all that stuff. I went back and got my master's in kinesiology too, because I like
That's awesome.
the sports side of it. That's the fun side,
Right.
you know. And I do the other just to, I don't know, pay the bills and help people out. But I spent a lot of times having conversations with people who they get to a level and they're burnt out, or they're having trouble staying focused, or like so many times, like the problem is like, because you used to love this, and now you got to a point to where like you're successful and you have to do it and you have to perform and you have to, like, you made that switch. It's like you know, what's that old saying? It's like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
Exactly.
Until you start doing it for a living, and then it becomes not what you love anymore.
Exactly.
And you're like,
which is why I don't have my own academy.
Exactly.
I don't want that.
And
it's my hobby.
Lose that love.
It's my fun.
I spend a lot of time trying to help people like what if you just had fun rolling again? Like, what if you didn't have to win the Dallas Open? What if you just went and had fun? Would you, you know, they're like, yeah, I'd probably do really well. Yeah. Yeah, you would.
It could happen, yeah. But, yeah, people are like, you're not very aggressive. You hardly even use any energy. You rarely even hardly move. And I don't understand how you're doing it. Well, I found I'm lazy, right? By default, I'm just lazy. I mean, if I can find the easiest, fastest route to do something, I will do it. That's the way my brain works. I'll take the easiest, fastest route, as long as it's the same result, right? It's a good result.
Yeah.
That's what I do. That's what I'm designed to do. And so I use very little energy when I roll, because I don't need to use it and be spastic. And I use technique and concepts and apply those very well. And it helps me with Jiu Jitsu easily.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's like you're almost sleeping or something now. Well, I can't use a ton of energy. I get tired, right?
Yeah.
So I just deploy my little hacks, my little tricks in conceptual Jiu Jitsu, and I can enjoy it.
It's like, there's an old saying, it's an HR, something about like, if you, in business, if you need a more efficient way to do things, assign those tasks to the laziest person.
Because they're going to find it.
Yeah.
Best way to do it with the least amount of effort. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the way I am.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's great, but at the same point, you know, I'm playing on bottom, having fun, goofing off, and just counterattacking or doing something. Yes, I could still beat you 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, you know, throughout a 5-minute period, but I just have fun doing that. You know, it's like, it's weird. I kind of get stuck in it.
Yeah.
I don't ever try to maintain a top position or everything that, you know, somebody that's competing would tell you to do, right? Take the dominant position, be on top, attack. I rarely do that. It's hard for me to do that. It just seems like a waste.
Yeah. So are there any other sort of these handicap things that, you know, most of these labels that people would put on you as a handicap that you feel like has either turned out to be a gift in jiu-jitsu, or that jiu-jitsu has helped you to deal with and overcome? Like, what are some of the benefits that you...
You know, I'm a big introvert, right? I don't like to be around people, but teaching and training with all these, it's like, I think it was Joe Rogan that said, you know, we're making these like killer assassin nerds, right?
Assassin nerds.
It was something like that, you know, and he's right. I mean, these people, it's a family, right? It's someone you can train with and win and lose, and at the end of the day, you don't care. You're just all improving each other, right? Sure. And so for me, being able to get out and communicate and socialize, like you said, which is a huge problem for me, it allows me to be able to do that, whereas I would be very closed and at home and not really going to do anything at all if I didn't have that. So, you know, there's a lot of different things.
Was it difficult for you to kind of force that at the beginning, or did you?
Yes, it was. Like I said, I started with almost 50 private lessons. I mean, I didn't want to be touched. I didn't want to be pinned on. You know, I didn't want to be sweated on. It's not the cleanest.
So how are you with that now? Like
it's
so
hard.
If you went from like, I don't want no one to touch me, to like, now someone's gonna fold me into a pretzel and lay on top of me. Like, that's such a long transition from one to the other.
Okay, so let's look at this. Okay, so we'll use this in the manner of this. So what does somebody that has autism use, right, if they want to be comforted, right? Now they have these, and I have one, a weighted blanket. Yeah. When I had, like last night, I had insomnia, I slept an hour and a half. I talked to you 1,000 times in my head last night, just to do some silly little communication back and forth that doesn't take a lot of thought. I can just fire off the cuff. But I talked to you 1,000 times over different questions you might answer or ask, or, you know, to my brain was going crazy. I got an hour of sleep, but I took the weighted blanket and I put it on me and I could sleep. Well, it's the same. There's comfort to some extent in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah.
And that's just an analogy I can give you. You know what I mean?
No, I get it. Yeah.
I'm trapped. I'm pinned. But I have claustrophobia. But the weight of it is comforting. Right? And it's the same kind of thing for jiu-jitsu. I'm able to get past or grow because of jiu-jitsu and get through these little handicaps or whatever they want to give me, a new label, right? You wouldn't know that if you met me in the real world.
I've known you since high school.
Yeah,
when you said that, I was like, what?
Yeah, nobody would know that. But I felt the autistic kids, Joel and some of those other guys that were in high school with us, and everybody wanted to be mean or pick, or maybe they weren't mean or bullies, but yeah, I felt, it's like I could feel their anxiety, their sadness almost, but I don't have like a happy or sad, but I felt that, like I get embarrassed watching TV shows like Impractical Jokers, right? You ever seen that show?
Yeah.
I have to change it sometimes. I get so uncomfortably embarrassed that I'm physically feeling that embarrassment for the person.
Really?
That I have to change it sometimes.
So you're pretty empathetic then to other people's
I feel
those
emotions, but I don't feel like a happy, sad. It's a single state for me. But embarrassment brings about anger, and that is flooded with emotion.
Yeah.
Which is strange, but it's not like I don't have any emotion. I do. Right. And embarrassment is one of those ones that I feel like if somebody can laugh in a crowd, oh my gosh, they're laughing at me. And they have nothing to do with me. But I feel that embarrassment. I mean, it's a horrible thing, but I've learned to cope with it through business and through, the life things and jiu-jitsu. It's helped me get through a lot of stuff.
Man, I have been a huge fan of specifically jiu-jitsu. Maybe other martial arts offer the same thing, but my experiences with jiu-jitsu. And, in mental health, when you come in with depression, they tell you go exercise. Anxiety, hey, you should start an exercise program. There's so many things that you come into in mental health or in therapy that, one of the prescriptions is always exercise. And I have found it not all exercise to be equal.
Oh, I agree with that.
And that jiu-jitsu has so much more to offer than a lot of these other things, and I've had a lot of conversations about this in the recent past, that there's a lot of research things about, the benefits of doing exercise for mental health that's prescribed to you, like someone saying go do this, and it's something you're not already really good at, or something like you can go run on autopilot and still be, in your own head and run 10 miles. It'd be hard to do that in learning something brand new in jiu-jitsu and then trying it on someone else. It'd be hard to be
kind of like a distraction from it.
Yeah, it's almost like I view it as almost like meditation, whereas I've never been one that could kind of quiet everything and
right. So
I was like meditation is definitely probably not for me.
Why am I meditating or how to do it properly?
How do I meditate? So
why am I thinking of nothing? It's like I don't get it.
You read my mind. But I think I get the same thing out of going like if you go roll for 20 minutes or 30 minutes, like your brain is here. It's focused here, and it's whatever you walked in the door with or whatever stresses or whatever you've been all day long, like for a minute you get to set it down.
Exactly. That was their release whenever they said they kicked them in. That's what jiu-jitsu was from. It's the release. Away from their distractions, away from the work, or problems with their family or co-workers, whatever. It's their release. They come in and they just do what they want, and it's a mental break, really. It seems crazy it's a mental break, but it's a mental break.
Well, it requires you to use the focus of your brain to, when somebody's teaching you how to, like, all right, I'm going to teach you, this heel hook, and you're thinking like, oh, which arm, which leg, like you have to pay attention and do, this, and so it requires that part of your brain that you can go jump rope and not use that part.
Oh, exactly.
So there's a lot of benefits to having like prescribed type stuff, but more and more. So I've interviewed, I don't know, 3 or 4 people, and all of it has, been kind of centered around jiu-jitsu and the things that people have overcome and kind of using jiu-jitsu along the way as a tool. The one thing I've noticed the whole time is the support of people around you.
Exactly.
Like
it's like a family.
The more I work in mental health is the more I'm like, dude, like, all these techniques and theories and pills and like everything sucks, man. Just like you should just, I'm gonna write a book that's for like get some friends, like, and
Yes, a problem and a solution, right? It doesn't matter if they're going to get one. It's a take of this pill or take that pill, or we need to develop this pill.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I can tell you, I take Ritalin. I can tell you, there's a huge difference when I don't take it. My wife's like, "You didn't take your meds, did you?"
Yeah.
And again, I'll be kind of kiddish, and and I'll be all over the place. But it allows me, instead of focusing on 6 pictures at once and working all 6, which people say can't be done, I feel like I can do it. But yet, it allows me to say, "Oh, I'm going to focus a little extra time on this one," and that's what I need for work, for my business, and it allows me to do the same kind of thing in when I'm at Jiu Jitsu class. I mean, I'm not really learning a whole lot, but I mean, not anymore anyway, because I've learned a lot. But you never quit learning.
Sure.
But it's a little detail here or there, and I can focus and find that little detail and help someone else that's never seen that detail understand it through a concept. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's my gateway. It's whatever I need it to be.
Yeah, it's a lot of things for you, like, your social, like you've used it to overcome.
Yes.
Like, you've used it as a tool. I tell people, I'm usually try to be really clear on like telling people like, this is not a cure for things that bother you. Like, this is not a prescription. It doesn't fix things. You should definitely do all the things that whatever doctor or whatever it is that you need to do. But it is a super, super useful tool in so many different aspects of life and overcoming struggles and just honestly, even if it's not, just life lessons of.
Right.
You mentioned not giving up a while ago.
Exactly.
And, the belt structure, I think, in jiu-jitsu is like cool in that it takes a long, like when you get one.
Yeah, it takes a long time.
You
for
got
a lot
one.
of people, it takes a huge amount of time, like 10, 15 years sometimes to get your black belt.
And even between just the individual ones, it's like it takes so long and so much work. And
that's why people quit.
When you get there, you're like, man.
That's why they quit.
Yeah.
A lot of times they can't put themselves through that much. Do something for that long without a reward, right? It's like you're not getting that
instant
cookie, you know what I mean? It's like, but I mean, that comes to your point, right? So doing jiu-jitsu and mimicking a fight, a ground fight without striking or kicking or biting or whatever, headbutting. I mean, you're releasing those chemicals in the brain that it needs, right? So, for example, some of these pills like ADD, what do they say? It's not handling dopamine receptors or however far you go into the what they call the science of it, right? So they think they understand this, but it's you get all those chemical releases, fight or flight, different stress is released, the chemicals that are released in the body and the brain, and it's like you get all that in jiu-jitsu.
Sure, yeah.
And I think that's the exercise part that helps, right? When they say go run, you might not ever get that release, of those chemicals that occurred, but jiu-jitsu allows you to experience the ups, the downs, every bit of it, right? And I think that's the piece where you're balancing your brain out with those natural release of the chemicals, not a substance to release the chemicals.
Yeah, you can so quickly go from accomplishing small goals, you can accomplish them 10 in a row in a 30-minute period and be like, wow, I know these successes, but you can also in that same amount of time be humbled and crushed and have to overcome and deal with this. And, it's just so many different things, for so many different people. So all of that to say, like, I've really found jiu-jitsu specifically to be very unique in what it offers people. You hear all that stuff from like, all these greats, all the big names, and they're on YouTube and they're doing interviews, and you hear all this like very spiritual, existential, like, oh, jiu-jitsu's this and that, and you're like, yeah, but you don't really ever buy into it, But I think in this case, in my own experience, I really do think it's special, and I do buy into that stuff. So
I mean, I met people that have, jiu-jitsu saved their life, literally. I mean, they were drug, addicts, or they were overweight. I mean, grossly overweight, and they come in. I mean, and I welcome those guys. 400 or 500 pounds. I mean, it doesn't matter. Look, I'm trained. Oh, I don't want to train with that guy. He's too big. That doesn't matter.
Right.
You come in and feel that and learn, and let's help you get healthy together, right? I mean, I love when they're big like that, because you don't get that much weight to work with that often, right? Because they don't want to step through the door. Really, they're embarrassed a lot of the times. They don't want to. They don't want to take that first step, and it's hard.
Yeah.
But I've seen guys that have come in 300-400 pounds and 150, 170 pounds now, and in great shape, right? And if they hadn't stepped in the door and taken that, that first step, they could be potentially dead right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it just does, like I said, it's a gateway. It does anything and everything you need it to be. It allows you to take it
you can find
and view it in that form.
Yeah. Yep. I view it as a tool you can use for whatever journey you're on in your life.
Exactly.
It is definitely a useful tool to have in your toolbox.
Right. I never read a book in my life, right?
Really?
That's not technical.
Really?
Right? Not one.
Dude, you were...
I can't. I can read
I
can read a bunch of words, but
yeah.
It's useless, right?
Wow.
Well, technical, I'm actually applying
think of it,
that technical aspect on a computer or whatever, right?
Gotcha.
And I wanted to do it, so it piques my interest. But no book. I don't sit down and read a book at all. But it reminds me when I was a kid, my mom read books all the time. She still reads like a book a day or something. And you had there was this one book she got me, and it was like Choose My Own Path. And I'm like, oh, wow. I mean, I read it, but I can't tell you I read the whole book, right? So I would read a couple pages. For this journey, go to page 220, right?
Oh, yeah.
For this
Choose
one,
Your Own Adventure.
go to 200, and you could choose your direction and your path. And that's what jiu-jitsu is like for me. It's like, I can be a hammerer now, or I can always try to be a hammerer as you get more skilled, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't always need to be. So I go in and work on 2 or 3 things, and I put myself in positions, or I start with somebody and let them have mount, because I want to work on certain developing aspects of it. And that's what I'm saying. It's that gateway. It's whatever I want it to be. It's my choose my own path story, Yeah,
that's very cool.
So, and that's exciting to me.
I think it's awesome, man, that you've been able to view all these things as gifts. A lot of people don't. A lot of people get sucked into the labels, and a lot of people struggle with what the world tells them they're supposed to be. So I think it's very cool that you've been able to do that, and obviously been successful. I didn't, when we reconnected a year and a half ago or whatever, and met up, and you were a black belt. I didn't know you trained or.
Yeah, I've been a black belt now. 3 years. February was my.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. I mean that really is a huge accomplishment to get to that level. Yeah. One, just to stick it out, but
to not quit, right?
To hear your story, to be like, for 50 private lessons, I couldn't even stand to be around a person touching me. Like that's an even bigger journey, to be able to get through that and then still get that far.
It's helped me get through life. I mean, it's changed me. I can walk into an academy now that I've never been to, right? To come see you, say at 360, right, sometime, and I'm not just dying. I'm not just sitting on the side or sitting in my truck going, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody. How can I walk in this facility? And that was hard for me. Years and years and years of seminars. If I don't have a partner to go with me, oh my gosh, when we split to do the anxiety and you got to pick a partner. Oh my gosh, I back out still. I still will sometimes back away and let everybody group and then find the one left in the room.
Left.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, but I can do that now. I can take that step where before I could never do that. And it's allowed me to have a better life, right? Because I've been able to take these hurdles or these labels and get off of what they said I was on that spectrum, right?
Yeah.
Can't be touched. I can be touched every day. Train 4 or 5 days a week minimum, right? Several hours. Sweat it on. I mean, jiu-jitsu is not the cleanest of sports, right? The ball guys, man, that sweat comes running down the head, right in your face.
I wear a headband. Somebody's like, why do you wear that thing? I'm like, that's for you, not for me.
Yes, exactly. You get on the bottom, that sweat be you're watching it like, please don't drop on my face.
Here we go. Yeah, no, I started wearing a headband for that because I feel bad when it drips.
But I mean, but it's part of it, right? And that's another point. I mean, just that release of toxins. Mm-hmm. Right, and that's huge for somebody with, with a spectrum disorder, right, or as they call it, high functioning autism or ADD. You're releasing toxins, right? I go home and I'll take an Epsom salt bath. It releases toxins from my body, and because a lot of the stuff, if you look it up, it'll be like, oh, high levels of metals or this or that, right? I mean, it's always something, So, but no, I mean that's another point to what we've been talking about. I mean, you're just sweating it out and. just like seems like you're getting a health benefit from it, not only from the aspects of cardio or I don't lift weights ever, right? But people are like, oh man, you're strong. Well, I don't lift weights. So it's just from grappling and using isometric holds or different ways of controlling the body so that they think I'm strong, but I'm not the muscle guy that walks in off the street.
Sure. Yeah.
So I mean, I get all of that. I can't go lift weights. I hate it. I can't go run. I run for 100 yards. This is crazy. I can't do this. I can. I did it all my life, right? I mean, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
But jiu-jitsu it's a game. Soccer was a game. I didn't think of the exercise. It just happens. And I don't have to be like, oh man, I got to work out. It's like I get to do jiu-jitsu and this is exercise. Even though I don't care or think of it as exercise, it's exercise.
Yeah, the distraction kind of helps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can work out.
Be distracted while you're exercising.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sit there and do the leg lifts and the warm up and the jumping jacks. And I don't want to do that. But we get through that, right? We sit there and we learn something new and we get that 1% better every time we go in to the academy. And over time, if we don't quit, we don't give up on that journey, we get rewarded.
Eventually you get there.
And I eventually got there, and I still love that reward. I still love showing up. It's not about wearing my belt or getting that first degree on my black belt. I don't have it yet, and maybe I'll get it next week. But I've done the 3 years, right? Not like I deserve it, but I should be earning it because I show up and I train every day and I help teach and I represent that honor, integrity of what a black belt is, and I try to help that be conveyed in the form of concepts. That's what helps me teach others. And I get rewarded when they say, man, when we did that the other day, you showed me this. Oh my God, it was amazing. It helped me more than a year's worth of jiu-jitsu. 30 minutes with you helped me more than a year of jiu-jitsu. And when I hear that, that's the greatest reward in the world. It's not money. It's them telling me that I affected, something that they were doing in such a positive manner. Mm-hmm. And that's my biggest reward from jiu-jitsu.
Well, it's very awesome, man. I think it's an inspiring story. I know some people specifically that once I get this uploaded, I want to send this to, to watch, because I know some people that are in your shoes, that struggle with things and have struggled to do this or want to do this but can't.
Oh, it was hard. Like I said, my wife, I credit my wife. Yeah. When I got my black belt, I said, thank God first and foremost for me being here and being able to do this and having the ability to do it. Mm-hmm. And second, my family, because without my wife supporting me and my family behind me, I would never have made a black belt, right? I would have showed up once or twice a week. I was there 6-7 days a week doing private seminars. Without them, I couldn't have done that. And they helped me in the same manner. I would have never stepped on the mats, honestly. I would have procrastinated forever. I would have studied all on my own and never physically been in a regular class if my wife hadn't have bought that one little gesture, of like around Christmas or something. I can't remember what it was, but here, 6 private lessons.
Private lessons.
That was the entry. That was the foot in the door. And that's helped me grow as a man, right? As a family member and as a leader. And I helped how many people, I can't tell you how many little girls or boys or adults that can potentially save their life that I've helped do because of her. Yeah. Just that one little step.
People helping people, man. It really does come down to...
It's crazy when you think about
having the people and the support around you, and her doing that for you allows you to do this for others, and
she doesn't even probably realize
it. And it's a chain. It's exponential, And how many, if you help 10 and those people help 10,
exactly.
That's her contribution is enormous by the end of the chain.
Exactly.
So that's very cool, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming in and doing this. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while because I think it's a really unique way that you see it, and it's very interesting to me. And I'm one of those guys that it was, when we trained that night, just for a little while, there was just nothing huge. But there was just a few little things that was yeah, that makes sense, or like I had learned this before or learned this move, but it helped to click like, okay, that's why, or this is, if I can't get my leg here, it's not really the end of the world. I can adjust, or I don't necessarily have to do it this specific way. So
yeah, I think that's the big thing for me is like, you can be shown a move, but if you don't understand the why,
Right.
Which is why I'm always, why? But what is, why? I need the why.
Yeah.
Right? I need that holistic view of it. And then, oh man, I can see anything and everything you want to show me at that point. But I need that why, you know. Why am I not putting my hand on the mat? Yeah, I don't know. You know, most people are like, well, why do you put your hands on him instead of the mat? I don't know. I was just told. This is what I was taught.
That's what you do.
So you're just following orders, right? You're just following direction.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not that guy that follows directions, you know, and I need that why. I need to understand it. That breaking it down helps conceptually. So, no, man, I'd love to share more concepts with you sometime. And just visually, though. I mean, on the mat, you know, maybe some videos, because it's very difficult for those people like me, if we're really going to reach to those type of people like me, hearing me and seeing the actual movements was hugely different. You know.
Well, so one thing I did was got on YouTube and was like BJJ concepts, and there's a bunch of videos of people talking about conceptual jiu-jitsu and the benefits. Some of them sell you some DVDs at the end of it.
Exactly.
But I was like, you know, there's not a whole lot out there that really teaches that.
Right.
You know, that's why I messaged you the one day. I was like, hey man, like you can start the market. It doesn't exist yet. Like,
see, I could have been a millionaire multi times over, but again, I don't take risks.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that comes back to the choking and I'm afraid to take a risk. It's built into me. I don't have risks. Right. I calculate everything. Everything's calculated very thoroughly. I mean, I think, like I said, I think of multiple times before I even do something. Yeah. Ins and out, research everything, but I can't take the risks, and so, you know, that's. You know, I'm not going to start something, but I mean, I'd love to share for free to help others, and that's what I enjoy doing. So
very cool. Maybe we can touch base on that here in the near future. And
I mean,
see what gives.
It's so easy, like simple concepts, all right. And I mean, like that's what's the beauty of it. Like, how many times have you been on the bottom of a mountain, seen somebody just flopping around like a fish, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of just keeping their hips up in the air, right? Have you ever tried to sit on a slide?
Yeah.
If you don't hold on to the slide, because your hips are in the air now, right? Because you bridged up and held them up. If you don't hold yourself up, you're going to fall.
Right.
Simple table on a slide, right? If I'm flat, you can sit on, lay there, do whatever you want. But if I bring my body and my bridge up high, you have to hold yourself up, which means now I can easily grab your arm and reverse you.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just those type things that they can visually and, you know, help others with jiu-jitsu and make jiu-jitsu better and easier for them. Yeah. And then they can pass that on, like we talked about.
I've passed on even some of the things that just you and I have talked about. I've worked with my daughters. They want to compete here, and when is it? I think it's in May, like May the 10th. So
wow, that's awesome.
We set a goal, and you know we're training towards that so they can compete. But yeah, I've passed some of those things along, and they've been like, oh, you know, I can see it. Like,
it's amazing when it clicks with them. Right?
Yeah. So the back sweep thing, you know, was the perfect one because my daughter loves it. That's like. She will lay down on the ground and get in a terrible position to try and because that's my move I want to do. And I was like, you know, no, you don't. If you can't get your hand there, just use something else.
Yeah,
you know,
just
like
block something. Just
all you're doing is controlling ankles and pushing the hip.
So just block something and off balance it.
And she was like, oh, like I turned her upside down and did a bunch of different ways. And like, see, it works every way. So it's definitely helpful. So, man, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it, and I really do think this is an inspiring story, and I think a lot of people get some benefit out of hearing what you've had to overcome to get to where you're at. So
that's good. Glad I could share.
Cool, man. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you.
Cool.